Welcome learners, I am Dr. Faiza Abbasi, Assistant Professor cum Assistant Director at the UGC Human Resource Development Center, Aligarh Muslim University. I teach environmental studies and my subject specialization is wildlife sciences. As you know, in the last module, we have done the importance of sustainable development and environmental ethics. Today, we are going to begin with the new module in your week 4 in this course on environmental education for teacher training institutions. The topic for this module is the importance of environmental ethics in teacher education. Friends, the objectives of this module are to raise awareness about the major issues concerned with the environment in the 21st century and how, by the inclusion of ethics, morals and responsible behavior on the part of human beings, especially the educated society, we can tackle these issues that have been raised by the misuse and abuse of nature and natural resources. In the last module, we have done at length the structure of various types of natural resources and also how we can bring in the various measures of sustainable development. Our objective today is to understand the issues of environment today, the deteriorating condition of the environment and what we need to do to fight the destruction of the natural environment. Our next objective is to see what various ethics can be introduced in teacher education so that persons, especially educated persons, can come out with responsible behavior towards the protection of their environment and natural resources. The first and the most massive environmental issue today is that of pollution. As you know, there are various types of pollutions. There is air pollution, there is water pollution, there is soil pollution and there is noise pollution. The second issue is water scarcity. We have seen what is water pollution in the previous picture. As you saw, there were hundreds of drains and sewage lines opening up into water bodies, and this is not only causing the pollution in water, degrading its quality for drinking, for irrigation, for washing, but also causing the water resources to become very, very scarce. Now, as you know, the whole earth is covered on 2/3 of its portion by water, but all this water is not worth being utilized by human beings because this is brackish water. This water has so much salt in it, it is found in the sea and in the great oceans that human beings can't use this water for drinking, for irrigation and for washing purposes. Now, the surprising fact about water is this, that of this entire resource of water that is available to human beings, only 2 to 3% is available in the freshwater ecosystems such as the rivers, streams, ponds, etc., from where we can take them and we can use them. Of this also, 2% is locked in the glaciers that are found on the mountains and where there are huge rocks of ice, that is frozen water, which very slowly and gradually become a part of the rivers when the rivers flow and the ice melts. So, we can see that we have to be very, very responsible about the water resources that we are using. Today, the condition is this, that the rivers have become so polluted that direct use of the river water is impossible, that so much of groundwater That is, water which is being taken from the aquifers is being removed, and we are not creating any new opportunities for recharging these aquifers, that very soon it is predicted that there will be water wars instead of world wars. The next environmental issue that humans are grappling with is solid waste disposal. As you know, every day we are creating enormous amounts of waste. Now, this waste is of two types. It is biodegradable and it is non-biodegradable. Biodegradable waste is such that can be mixed with earth, and the nutrients that are there in the garbage, they get back to the soil, whereas non-biodegradable waste is very, very harmful and very, very toxic in nature, because even for thousands and thousands of years it does not degrade. So, it is important that as teacher educators we educate the students about being ethical and responsible regarding disposal of waste. We have a nationwide mission on cleanliness and hygiene, which is a very welcome step that has been taken by our country. We should all try to participate in it as much as possible. Now, this solid waste disposal is an individual responsibility as well as a collective responsibility of the government, the public and the private sectors. Of course, it is important that anybody who has some amount of waste at his disposal, he or she disposes it off responsibly. That is, not here and there, not creating litter, especially not creating litter in natural ecosystems. If we are passing by a road which has grasslands on two sides or forests on two sides, or if we are passing by a bridge, or if we are visiting a beach, we just can't throw packets of chips and plastic waste and plastic glasses here and there, because they all become a part of that ecosystem and create too much hazard, because this is all hazardous non-biodegradable waste. They create too much hazard for the animals who consume it. The plastic that we throw on the roads is being eaten by animals like the cows and the dogs, which are feral in nature. Now, this plastic, when it enters the intestines of these animals, it clogs the openings of the intestines, and there is no digestion of any food that this animal is eating. This is very cruel treatment that modern man is giving to its animals. So, we have to be responsible about non-biodegradable waste. Similarly, about the biodegradable waste also, it is important that we practice some discretion. All the drains of the cities are opening into water bodies that have their own ecosystem, that have their own food chains and food webs and food pyramids. Now, in these water bodies, because of the addition of extra organic matter that is coming in the form of sewage and with the sewer lines, the biological oxygen demand of the water bodies, it increases. It increases by many folds. This causes a condition called eutrophication, because of which slowly and gradually ecological succession turns the water body into a terrestrial ecosystem. Now, this way we will have lost all the rivers and we will have lost all the ponds and all the freshwater ecosystems. Can you imagine life and civilization without ponds, without rivers and without freshwater ecosystems? So, we are causing a lot of distress to our own selves because of irresponsible solid waste disposal. As part of teacher educators, we have to inspire and inculcate in our students the good values of disposing solid waste in a responsible manner, participating with full enthusiasm in events like the Cleanliness Mission, and in there is these days a new concept of biocomposting, which is very effective, but it needs a lot of personal care at the level of the households. So, as teacher educators, if we can influence the students to behave responsibly regarding solid wastes, it will certainly create such citizens who will take that extra pain for disposing solid waste. The next major environmental issue these days is deforestation. Ideally, 33% of our land should be under the forests, whereas the figures in India today are much lower. And when it comes to natural forests, it is even lower. And all the deforestation has been caused by wrong policies of development. We have seen the importance of sustainable development. Friends, more deforestation, more felling of trees, more cutting of the green cover, clearing of the green cover means more and more disaster for us. We do need wood for so many purposes like construction, transport, development, but there has to be a limit to how much we can procure timber from the forest. Our forest should mean for us natural wealth, natural heritage. They should not just mean for us a resource for economic growth, for collecting more and more timber and for selling it for more and more money in the market. So, the important ethic about forests is to respect them as natural systems, is to just let them be. The forests, just let them be, not harm them, not destroy them, because if the forests are there, so will be the many hundreds and thousands of birds and animals and insects and lizards which are surviving on the forest. There are many functions that the forest serves for us. They are a vital lung for the society, they clean the air, they attract better rainfall, they keep soil in its place, preventing soil erosion, and we need the forest for many ecosystem services which they give us for free of cost. So, students who are growing up should be given the eye and the insight of respecting forest for what they are, instead of considering forest a resource for earning and generating more and more economic and pecuniary wealth. The next major issue these days is of global warming. The temperature of the earth is rising. We know the average earth temperature has risen. Everywhere there is more heat. The summer season has become more and more severe, and this is causing great problems, especially at the polar regions, the North Pole and the South Pole. Now, this is one region where throughout the year we need to have a lot of ice, because that is how the balance of the oceans and the ocean temperature is maintained. Plus, this ice is also the natural habitat for many animals who live on ice, such as the polar bear, as you can see behind. Now, because of these rising temperatures, the ice at the poles, the glaciers, it is melting and it is coming into the oceans. The oceans level is becoming higher and higher. Now, because of this, a lot of islands and a lot of coastal cities and coastal regions and fishing villages, they are all at the threat of being extinct, because with this kind of rise in the ocean level, one day there will be a complete marooning of these islands and these coastal villages. Now, for issues related to global warming, there are issues related to climate change. Climate change is occurring and it is here for everyone to see. There are more and more incidents of forest fire. The severity in all the weathers has increased. There are more droughts, there are more floods, and there are more severe winters and more severe summers. Because of this, farming and agriculture has been incurring great losses. What happens is that the farmers sow the seeds and they wait for the rainfall. But because of climate change, the rainfall pattern has been so badly disturbed that we don't get rainfall at the right time. That is, at the time when the farmer had expected this rainfall to occur. Now, please recall the reasons and the situation of global warming and couple it with climate change. Both these are actually an effect of more and more carbon emissions, which is causing the greenhouse effect or the glass house effect on the planet Earth. Carbon that is emitted because of all our developmental activities is being accumulated in the atmosphere. The ultraviolet radiation from the sun that enters the Earth's atmosphere is not able to dissipate back in the space, and hence the temperature of the atmosphere of the Earth is increasing and it is causing global warming and climate change. So, the one major important ethic related to climate change is that we have to limit our consumption, because anything that we consume to support our life, to support our lifestyles, to make us more and more luxurious, more and more developed and modern, it causes carbon emissions. Carbon emissions caused by the burning and the combustion of fossil fuel in all automotives, carbon emission that is caused by all sorts of manufacturing and production, and carbon emission that is even caused by agriculture. Now, we can't stop carbon emissions, because without any emission a person cannot survive, one cannot live, but we can certainly limit emissions. Now, this becomes the responsibility of each and every person, that he or she, as a genuine citizen, genuine global citizen of the world, tries to reduce its consumption pattern, tries to limit the amount of carbon he or she is emitting in the atmosphere by reducing the consumption of natural resources. Now, regarding inspiring students to reduce their consumption patterns and to modify them according to the limits of the environment, the best inspirational lesson that we all get is from the father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi. In a very famous quote about nature, natural resources and environment, Mahatma Gandhi had once said, "In this world there is room for every man's need, but there is no room for every man's greed." Now, look at the profoundness of this quotation. By saying this, he meant to inculcate the habits of simple living, of reducing consumption, of not being consumeristic, of not being materialistic, of having high values and not abusing nature for the luxuries that it can give us. Because if we are doing this, we are emitting less carbon into the air, we are combusting less fossil fuels, we are using less electricity, we are burning less coal, and this is all causing a reduction in the emission of carbon into the atmosphere, which is a collective responsibility of the entire global village. Now, to explain this, I want to give you an example. Maybe one of the developed countries in the north, they are emitting a lot of carbon and they are not complying to the international ratifications of carbon emissions, but the brunt of this will be borne by those small fishing villages that may be at the coastal line of, let's say, South Africa. This is just an example, because the emissions caused by one developed country in the north will be increasing global warming, which will increase more and more the levels of the oceans, and this might maroon a fishing village of a poor fishing community in the third world countries. Now, it is only by having good values and good ethics that a child growing up into a citizen can gear himself up towards responsible consumption of natural resources, because it is ultimately a matter of personal choice. The last and the final environmental issue is biodiversity depletion. Now friends, as you know, we inhabit this planet Earth with millions of other species of flora and fauna, of plants and animals. But because of our hunting, killing the species for their body parts, for their meat, for game, and also because of a lot of habitat destruction of these species that has taken place, as I have told you earlier, in terms of we just looked at deforestation and clearing of forests for various purposes like agricultural development, like urban development, like industrial development. These species do not have a home to live. So on the one hand, we have to have an attitude of care and concern for every plant and every animal. They are there, they are cohabitants of the planet Earth for us. They have been put on the planet for us to live with, and we have to live with them, not without them, because our survival depends on their survival. One day when all the tigers are not there, when all the elephants are not there, when all the rhinos are not there, and as you know their populations are all coming down, one day there might be a situation that the survival of human beings is also jeopardized, and it is also at threat, because we are all part of a system. So these are the 7 environmental issues which have been, as we saw in the first module, which have all been seen as a result of the Industrial Revolution, which has changed our consumption patterns, which has changed the way we utilize the natural resources, the renewable as well as the non-renewable. And you would have seen that by looking at these 7 environmental issues, they are all interconnected. They are all interconnected in the same fashion that there is connection of the oceans that are surrounding the various continents on the planet. Now I am giving you an activity, and this will be the activity for this module. I request you to look at a net, a simple net that has some nodes and some threads that are being attached to each other. Now imagine that this is a net that has been erected in a circus, where some trapeze artists, they are swinging on these poles and these ropes, and they are holding hands and showing you an act of bravery. These trapeze artists are like us, like humanity, like all of us living with each other, holding hands, swinging on swings. But we can do that only because we have a security net beneath us, so that if any one of us unfortunately falls down, he doesn't have to fall down on the earth and break his neck. Now these environmental issues are being all cropped up because of the abuse of natural resources, because of more and more pollution, and because of biodiversity depletion. So they are all so interconnected that you can start imagining that with every species that is becoming extinct, a hole is being created in this security net that we call nature. Because for all our future needs, for all our present needs, and for our survival, we need this security net that is called nature. Now you might feel the triviality of one species, because for you it's just a species of animal, but then when you remove one node from a net, you would realize that there are several loose ends that are left lurking in the air by the removal of one node. Now, with the removal or extinction of every species, or with the depletion of every resource, one such hole is being created in the security net. Now, imagine if there are few holes, the security net can still survive and it can still save you, but when there are holes one after another burnt into this net will become weak and it will no longer be able to give us a mechanism to protect ourselves for a safe and secure future. So, we have to practice these environmental ethics of reducing our consumption, of having an attitude of care and concern for the plants and animals, of keeping our surroundings neat and clean, of being mindful of the natural ecosystems, of not polluting them, and of being ethical and moral in terms of nature conservation. Because nature is a gift of the Almighty, it is our heritage, it is our wealth, it is there for us to use it, but it is not there for us to abuse it. We have to use it in a prudent manner and we have to shun all profligacy when it comes to utilization of nature, because while sustainable development is our right, unmindful, blind development will take us to doom. So, this was the end of this module. I have prepared a set of some 10-12 quiz multiple choice questions. You can answer these questions and email them to me, and we can discuss this module on the basis of the various discussion points. There is a reading material also that has been attached with it. I hope you enjoyed learning. Thank you so much.